Do these politicians really care about us? This Naira redesign is a further eye-opener. Please watch this video to see how wicked all these politicians are. APC, PDP, it will shock you.
When they introduce these bad policies, and this their emergency care, you see all of them coming and say, yesterday, the supporter that came yesterday, he said that himself was campaigning in his zone and that there was no fuel. He had to buy a fuel for 1,000 naira. You see Alwan today talk about suffering. Rufai talking about suffering in their domain. That emergency care is what is amusing me. They do not know that in this country we have had 5 months of fuel queue, to which none of them said anything about. In fact, they were even praising their government. We have 8 to 9 months of students staying at home. We have banditry in a proportion that we have over 2 point something billion as at the year that passed. Bandits collected from innocent Nigerians. We have multiple kidnapping and shooting. In fact, prison breaks or prison attack, to the point where people even said they were going to overthrow the government of the federation. Rufai talked about bandits surrounding Kaduna, and he said they feared that they were going to take over the government. All of these things did not express, demonstrate, activate their concern for the Nigerian people. Suddenly, because election is at the door and there is a palpable fear that there is going to be a voter backlash, they decided that they were going to turn the heat at the president. And if you remember, I said it when their campaign started, that their entire manifesto is war against Buhari. But now I have been proved right, because everybody is seeing that they have just graduated from pantophobia to anthropophobia. So you see, what is baffling me is this. On the 5th of May, 2019, Governor El Rufai was quoted to have said that he was going to introduce a strategy and policy that will end godfatherism in Lagos. Who was he referring to? Well, Jando is going to apply that policy. On the 11th to 13th of May, Rufai's aide was reacting on behalf of his boss, and Rufai and the young man said, Rufai said, I can never be a vice presidential candidate or vice president to any drug baron. Who was he referring to? Now, but look at the palpable fear and sudden reaction from a Rufai that is throwing the entire northern Nigeria. In fact, he assumed the role of Sir Amadou Bello when he said that they have vowed, they have promised Asiwaju presidency. And when he was asked about elders, he said they are the elders are overrating themselves, and that they were never voted. Some of them can't even win councillorship, as if the determination of an elder is when you run for office.
Your candidate as former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has spoken up, and he's talked about how the CBN governor should not submit to blackmail. He shouldn't succumb to blackmail. So it would seem that on this particular policy, your party seems to be happy about it.
No. Let me first start by stating the obvious. This policy is the climax of the various policies of APC. If there was good governance, if there was no suffering, if APC lived to the creed of their promise, there would have been no need for this policy in the first place. Second of all, we have established that these people are only reacting not because they care for the masses, because the evidence show the very opposite, but that allegedly some of them have stashed money. In fact, you have had a Rufai who said one of his friends got 500 million. Who was he talking about? He's an APC governor. So these same people are the ones frustrating the distribution of this Naira to the Nigerian people through the payment platforms. Assuming that these people are not doing that to frustrate Buhari, there would have not been any effect whatsoever by the masses. The good thing for the Nigerian people is that they are acutely aware that it is the same APC fighting Buhari that are behind the holding of the new money, the back-end arrangement with bankers, and then the collection, which now is evidenced by what Rufai by himself said, that the governor had 500 million. So the position of Atiku Abubakar is that whatever it will take to deliver on good governance and free and fair elections should be implemented, but he expressed concern very well and vividly and clearly that the distribution of this Naira to the common people of Nigeria should never be frustrated. Now what Rufai has said proved my candidate right, because now there is evidence to show that there are people who are frustrating the distribution or the equitable distribution of this money to the Nigerian people. There is no contradiction.
Your presidential candidate has taken a position, do not extend the deadline, but you have quoted it here as one of the bad policies. It seems to be a contradiction. So what exactly is your party's position? Is your party's position, does it contradict your presidential candidate's statement on the currency redesign?
The statement of my presidential candidate is in no way taking a position as to whether the policy is good or bad. Everybody knows APC has bad policies, and APC's policies brings suffering to the Nigerian people. But let me give you a good example. The president even said that even if, when the governors visited him, that even if this extension were to be made for 1 more year, that people will still frustrate the access by the Nigerian people to the Naira. And he recounted how that information was given 3 months ago. Then he now undertook, because nobody receives intelligence more than the president in the country. And he said there is evidence to show that people are frustrating. So it is not the policy that is the problem. The problem is people frustrating it so that there will be a large extension for them to use the old Naira that they stash in safe houses to deliver on vote buying. There is no contradiction. And what the president said is supported by evidence, in the sense that DSS, ICPC, and the police have arrested, and you have seen the video all over, people who are stashing up the money in their homes, bankers who are giving to certain individuals, and now the governor of APC saying another governor of his has secured 500 million. For God's sake, that 500 million he secured, where is he taking it to? It's a big question that Rufai ought to have answered.
But does this support the views expressed in some quarters that the conspiracy theory from the villa is now to support your candidate to win the election?
Like I said from the beginning, and let me say it clearly, when I talked about anthropophobia is the fear of the people. Now, blame fixing, you don't have to have a reason to fix a blame. Once you are triggered by this anxiety, anything is a blame. Now, they are saying from the villa, but none of them has been able to furnish evidence. Look at somebody even calling Sabiu as somebody controlling the president. These people fell short of calling the president a moron. There is nothing they have not talked about the president. My head, my shoulder, my feet, my toe, my head, my shoulder. They were touching every part of the president. No, it is not the president. He means well for Nigeria. Somebody in the villa manipulating him. Somebody in that sort of manipulation. Somebody outside. So who else do you think they will say that the policy will benefit, since they try to manipulate the president and they can't succeed? Obviously, it has to be the person that is on clear path to win it. It's a common logic. But again, you asked me the question that if they have evidence, they ought to have furnished. And I like Alwan, in comparison to the rest of them. At least he's a conspiracy theorist. He has been able to point at somebody and has not substantiated evidence. But the rest cannot point at anybody. And there is nothing as confusing and as throwing something in the air and leaving conjecture. Like, let me tell you, even the media, one of their spokesperson at one time blamed the entire Nigerian media as working for PDP. So to that, what can you say? Is channel working for PDP? My sister, what is happening to them, let me tell you, it is captured in the famous dictum or colloquialism in Yoruba, kokorotunje efo inwe foluwa. Kokorotunje efo inwe foluwa. The insect that is killing the leaf is in the leaf. And so if they don't know, anything else can be a good excuse to give. There is one good news to everybody in Nigeria. The Nigerian people are fed up with APC. There is nobody in his sane mind that will vote APC anywhere in Nigeria.